In this video, I'll be going over various techniques for creating walls. We'll start with straight walls, then we'll get into some curved walls and some scenarios that are a little bit different. All of the steps I'll be going over here. Thank you very much for being here. These videos are perfect for architects, students, engineers, or anyone that wants to learn how to use Rhino for drafting, 3D modeling, and sharing their designs. If you enjoy the content, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for future videos. Thank you very much for being here, and let's jump right in. First thing we need to do is organize the information that we have. So I have this floor plan, and I'll go here to a new layer and call this drafting. And then I'll create a new one called model. I'll take all of the drafting layers and place them under the drafting layer and hide it. This way I can kind of lock it, but I can't lock it because I have one of these layers current. So I'll make model my current layer, and now I can lock that. This way I can create a sub layer, make my wall layer, and now I can start creating my design. Now, what I'll be doing here is creating the segments here. So the trick that I like to use is creating a box. So you can either type in box or click on the box component. And now we'll go from, well, first of all, let's keep in mind that object snaps are really critical to keep in mind. So let's turn off the ones that we don't need, the ones that will cause issues. So I'll turn off, say, perpendicular is fine. Midpoint near we don't necessarily want, and the reason why is because we want to go from here, from this corner to this corner, and then go up 9 feet. And if it looks like this, it's because it's under the wireframe. So I'll right click here on the top left and go to shaded, and I'll continue on creating the walls here. Now, I do like to keep in mind which ones go first. So I like to do the main ones, the ones like this. And it doesn't really matter how clean you make them because we're going to put them all together at the end. So technically, we can just go here from corner to build up the walls from the 3D model, and we'll be snapping here to the endpoints. This way we can create the floor plan as it was created into dimensions. So I'll go here from endpoint to endpoint. Great, and so that is one of the approaches that I would take if you don't have all of your work super clean. And this way we can take all of this and join it together. But first, let's create the door size. I'll go here to another box from this corner to this corner, and I'll go up by 8 feet. And then from this corner to this corner, and I'll go up by 6 feet, 8 inches. And then creating another extrusion. So I'll go to extrude surface, and I'll extrude this up to here and extrude this up to here. So these we can use as the doors. So we'll go here to a new layer, call this door, and change the color. So select them, right click on this layer, change object to layer, not copy, but change object to layer. And now here we have the shower, which we can leave it fully open. But what I'll do now is right click on wall, select objects, then do BU for Boolean Union. And I'll put all of those together into one solid. What happens though is that we have something called a crease, which is where we joined it together. So we'll type in merge all coplanar faces, and now it cleans up all our work and kind of takes care of cleaning up that work there. So next we'll be doing another method of creating walls that is not like this. So I'm going to be showing you a few techniques, and you can use them in combination depending on what situation you're in when you're trying to do your 3D model. What I'll be doing is taking all of this and moving it to the side, and now doing a different iteration with a different approach. The approach on this one, I actually want to hide everything except for, so I want to hide the dimensions. And now let's say your line work was not too clean. One way to bring it back and get it super clean is to type in curve Boolean. When you type in curve Boolean, it's going to say click inside the regions that you want to keep. So when you click inside of a region, it actually builds that curve within the boundaries that it finds. Now that won't work if let's say if one of the curves is not closed, or if it's not intersecting, it will give you issues. But for the most part, this will work if your walls are closed in. Then you'll hit enter and it'll create that line work. And now we can do this, extrude curve, and extrude this up with our wall layer. And now we can basically recreate top here by creating a box and bringing it down to this height, and then doing the same thing to the front door. Now doing Boolean Union and merge all coplanar faces. So that is the other approach is using curve Boolean, and that's a trick that I learned from one of my students. Curve Boolean is actually one of the most useful things that you can use now. So with that, let's go on to this last approach of creating walls. This approach is going to be creating a polyline. So for this one, I want to create a new layer. We'll just have it be layer 1, and let's change the color to red. Now I'll be creating a outer line, and we can extrude this outer line up. So extrude curve up by 9 feet, and then type in shell to remove the top and the bottom and create the outside walls. So we'll go 3.5 and remove the top and the bottom. Next, we'll be creating this portion, which will be creating a box from this corner to this corner, up from here to here. This approach is going to be creating the entire solid first. So all of the walls, first by creating shell and then building out the rest, then doing Boolean Union, merge all coplanar faces. And now what we need to do is actually hide that wall. Now let's bring in an extrusion. So we'll go to a box from here to here. We'll go 2 feet 6 or 6 feet 8 inches. We'll do here 8 feet. Now here we'll type in show, or we'll bring back the wall, and we can do Boolean difference to subtract the doors. So rather than building up the walls, we're actually just subtracting the door. And where we have the shower opening, we can create an opening like 8 feet. Now we can type in show and then subtract this. So Boolean difference, this. We'll type in show And so that is another technique to create the walls. And there's actually one last one that I want to share, and that is to create the polyline. It's going to be similar to this last one, but a little bit different. So let's move this over. And I feel like this one's you guys will like, because I feel like this is actually one of the cleanest ways to do it, is creating. So we have the outside line, which I think we already have here in red. Then we want to do this inside portion. So the spaces are going to get a polyline. So I'll go to polyline from here, here, and work my way around this space. Then C to close. And then I'll do this one. So now we've created basically the perimeter for all of the walls. All we need to do is remove the doors. So what I'll do is select them here. So I'll select that outer one, holding down shift, I'm selecting the other three. Now I can take this and do extrude curve at 9 feet. And that creates a perfect set of walls that we can now hide. And then here, 6 feet 8. And I even realized that this is wrong. This is supposed to be 8 feet, not 2.6. So that's something that's wrong on that plan. So we'll type in show, and we'll select this and type in Boolean difference. One of the ways that I save a little bit of time is, instead of typing in Boolean difference, I type in BD while having the object that I want to subtract from selected, and I'll hit enter. It'll say which ones you want to delete from, subtract from, and I select these two. Then I hit enter, and now I can take those and either delete them or change them to the door layer and do the same thing for these walls. So let's do that. Let's go from here to here. We'll go 8 feet. Now I'll type in show, bring this back and subtract it. So Boolean difference. And then to quickly change it to another layer or to match something else, I'll do match, MA, for match properties. I'll select this, and typically I have all of that because that's the easiest way for me to do it, is making sure that everything's on. And if I don't want something copied, then I'll just deselect it. Cool, 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 cool. So I feel like those were really the methods that I use, and I use them interchangeably depending on what situation I'm in. So that is why I wanted to go over some of these. Hopefully you found that interesting and useful. I feel like some of these techniques can be used for so many other designs, and I've had many students that I help with privately through tutoring. I've had many students ask me, like, how do I do walls? How do I do doors? How do I do these things? And I feel like this is a very good exercise to learn those basics, and from there you can move on to other techniques that can further enhance and help you build things in a little bit more efficiently. So with that being said, thank you very much for being here, and I hope to see you next time. Those techniques that I shared with you are mostly for walls that are linear or that kind of run along the XY or are kind of straight extrusions. For this one, I want to show if you have a curved wall or something like that, the approach that I would take, which would be different than the ones that I just showed you. So first, let me start here by going to a interpolated curve, and I'll just be creating something like this to create a wall section. Then I'll take this and I'll go to offset 3, and I'll be offsetting just by a unit of 3. It doesn't matter what size we're making this. So we'll go ahead and connect the endpoints. Now I'll select those, type in join, and then extrude curve, and then we'll just type in 10 feet. Or we'll just go, let's say, we'll just do it visually here. Now if it looks like this, it's because you're in wireframe mode. So let's go to shaded mode. And with a wall like this, what you would need to do is pick a point along the wall where you want the opening. So let's say we'll go here to a polyline, then we'll go to nearest, and then I'll just pick a point along here. If you want it exactly in the middle, take off near, and then just we'll go here to the middle, to this other side. And I will use the perpendicular snap. This way it creates a straight segment that goes from the vertical here to a perpendicular. And what I want to do is hold down shift and scale using one of the grips here to scale. Then we're going to take this and go to extrude, curve, extrude the height. And now offset surface using both sides on, and then let's use 10 here. So now it creates basically a box that is a straight line between the perpendiculars here, and then what we need to do is subtract it. Here's one thing to keep in mind is when you subtract it, it's going to ask you to either keep or delete the input. This is one of the things I want to do is make sure that I select the wall. I do Control C and copy it to the clipboard. This way I have it saved in the storage, like the memory of the computer. And when I do the command, it's going to take away this wall. So we'll go Boolean difference, BD, select the solid that's intersecting, whatever shape opening. And now it takes away the original, but keeps this. And that was one of the options, is keep the object that you're trying to subtract from. And yes, we want to keep that. Then we'll do Control V to paste. This way it pastes it exactly where it was before. And now with it already selected, we can do BI for Boolean intersection and do whatever intersects with the box to basically extract the opening for the door. The reason why we would do this is I'll take this, hold down Alt, I'll make a copy on the side, and then here we can now create a frame. So we'll go here to shell. First thing, we'll take this, we'll copy it, then we'll type in shell, and we'll do a shell and remove this side, the bottom, and the back. Then I can do paste and Boolean difference, this. And so now we have a door with the frame, and then this would be the segment that is left over. We can use it or not, it's up to you. So just wanted to share with you kind of that methodology, and that's the technique that I would use for creating walls that are curved. The reason why is because if you take that segment and you cut it off and you extrude one side and the other, it's going to be really difficult to recreate the segment that's left over. And with it being curved, it will also create a crease, and it won't look as good as this, which is pretty seamless. And this is a wall that is extruded up perfectly. So that is one of the advantages of this one. The only thing that would be a little bit strange is that this technically isn't a line. It's part of a curve. So let's create another iteration that I want to show of a curved wall. But this time, we'll move it to the side, Control H to hide. And this time, I'll be using a NURBS curve just to kind of change it up. I'll pick 4 points. I'll take this, Alt, copy up, and then Alt, copy up again. Then I'll take these three, loft it together, and then use record history. This way, when I move the curves, it will move it with it. And the way to get this, we can further change that surface by playing around or moving and updating those curves. The next step is going to be so if you delete one of those curves, it will undo the history. So what I'll do is I'll take that surface, hold down Alt, move this to the side, then change object layer to this. And now we can develop this. So I'll select that surface, offset, or offset surface. This time we're not, we could do both sides or we can do to one side. It really doesn't matter for this. So we'll just do 2. Next, we need to do the same thing. So pick a point, or it could either be a midpoint, or we can just go to any point here and just start creating a line segment. So we'll go to Polyline, nearest, and then I'll pick location here. And then move down here to look for not nearest, because that will cause some issues. We'll go to perpendicular and we'll do the same thing. Now this is going to be a little bit different and you'll see why. Well, I'll scale this up. I'll do extrude curve. And you'll see that that line segment between these two is actually not a flat line, which means that what I want to do is Control Z to undo, take that line that I scaled up, and we need to project to construction plane. This way it projects it to this plane where we can now extrude the curve. We can now offset surface. Both sides, yes, and then we'll do 10. We can also do scale 1 dimension from this midpoint. So here's the thing about curved walls like this. When you create a door opening, you're going to need a flat or a level opening. This way you have an easier time when you create the door frame and all of those things that come into play. So what I need to do is move this. Here, we'll go to nearest. We'll move this in. And I'll actually be moving this to this and then rotating it from this point and that point to match and meet the wall. So we'll go to rotate, 3D, creating the hinge point between the bottom, top, and this one. And here we can now go to turn off nearest and the intersecting point here. Now we can take that and move using nearest, which is okay this time. Oops. And I will move it from here in. Now what I'll do is I'll change my layer to like something like layer 1, and I'll do a command called intersect 2 sets. The first set could be either one. I'll do the box. Second set is going to be the wall. I'll do Control G to group, because now we have where they intersect, and I can move from this corner point. I'll turn off center because that causes issues too. And then we'll go here to the end point. So I'll turn off that layer. That also causes issues. Change object layer. Okay, now I'll move this from this corner to this corner. The only thing is that we still have that corner not meeting, so we'll actually need to move it to this one. Now I'll type in show, or bring back our wall. And now that we have it intersecting and looking good, now we can subtract it. So we'll copy the wall, Control C, put it onto our clipboard. Then we'll take this Boolean difference, this one, then paste, then Boolean intersection with this one. And yes, it creates the opening. Oh, actually here at the bottom, it did not. So I'll undo it. Select this bottom one, or select this, scale 1 dimension from here to the bottom to create that door. Now we'll do this again with Boolean difference, and then paste, and then Boolean difference or Boolean intersection, this one. Like I said, the door frame won't work unless you go like this. Extrude curve. We'll create this line segment. We'll go to extrude curve down to here. And then we'll be matching those lines. So loft between this and this. Loft between this. Now if I hide this, this will create kind of a doorway in, and we can take these, join, offset surface. We'll delete, we'll make sure that it doesn't save both sides, but we need to flip the direction. So we'll go to F to flip direction, and we'll just do 3. So it's giving us some issues here. One way to fix that is going to be to take duplicate edge, join, offset, 3. Now we'll isolate this and create a line or a polyline between those. Join it together, and now let's type in show. I know I'm going a little bit quick here, but this is more of like a different case that wouldn't happen ordinarily. So we'll go here to extrude curve, make sure that it says solid, yes. Okay. I did project to C-plane or project to construction plane, and now I'll do extrude curve, and now it will extrude correctly. What's happening is that that line segment that I created was not on a plane, and so we need it to be, because it won't extrude as a solid otherwise. Now we can take this and Boolean difference BD with the outside one. Now we can delete this inside portion, and it looks the same as before. The match properties, but it does have this little bit that is not working, and all of that stems from the issue that the wall is actually not level on the ground, right? So this, I guess this would be more in the additional content, because what I'm going to do now is go fairly quickly but show you the steps that I would take for doing this the right way from the beginning. So let's leave the door here. Let's say that's the location. But first we need to make sure that this is a level wall, or it's on a plane. So we'll go here to bounding box. We'll go to extrude surface and extrude this up to the second highest point. So by creating a bounding box, it creates it at the exact outer boundary, taking that bottom surface and extruding it up to this location. So we need to do scale 1 dimension. And now we can take this Boolean difference, the bottom, and we see that we still have a bit of a gap here at the front. So this is why we need to actually just scale this up by a good amount. So we'll do scale 1 dimension from here. It says 0.7, we'll do 1.5. We'll take this Boolean difference, this, and then we'll take this and I'll hold down and I'll just use this grip to pull it this way and Boolean difference the bottom of the door. Why? Because we want these two to be on the exact same plane so they intersect perfectly, and so the door is easier to create. And that's because you wouldn't ever have that scenario happen in real life. Typically when you build walls, you're going to build them exactly on a plane or something, or if that's not the case, then it would be fairly rare. So we'll take this and we'll do the same thing. So select this, copy to clipboard, Boolean difference, this, paste, Control V, and then Boolean intersection, this. Now we're going to create a line segment between these two, which is actually from the top. I'll do extrude, curve, down to the bottom, and loft these two. And this is a lot cleaner because they're on the same plane. Now this top one's going to be different. So I'll just select these, type in join, and offset surface, flip direction, and then 3. What's happening here is that messes up the corner. So once again, we have to duplicate edge, join the curves, offset to the outside. Now I will type in isolate to just isolate those curves, and when I select it and do F10, it gives me the control points, which I can now select, making sure that I'm not selecting the line, just those points, and I'll go from this corner to this one. Yep, from this one to this one up. And what it's going to do is make sure that it intersects it, but it won't move any other point. So basically stretching it, right? So we'll create last 2 line segments, join it together into a closed curve. Now I can type in show, then extrude curve. I'll select the original and deselect what I just made to delete it. Then use this to do a Boolean difference. And same thing here. So I'll do extrude curve. I'll go up and extrude surface out this way, creating like the little bit of the roof that it kind of needs. So subtract it with Boolean difference using the outside shell. And now these two I can join using Boolean Union, and then use merge all coplanar faces to get rid of that little crease. And now we can do that again here. So delete this outside part, delete this, and this one I'll isolate and turn into a shell using a thickness of 1, should be fine. I'll select front, bottom, and back by just doing a sweep from bottom right to top left. Then spacebar, and we create a shell, typing in show, and then match properties to the wall. And then here we can create the door. How? Well, I like to use C-plane, surface, then using a box relative to the center point, and do the same thing here. So this one copy Boolean difference, this one, paste, and then Boolean intersection. Copy, then shell, then paste, and then Boolean difference, this one. And lastly, if it's going to be a pair of doors, I'll create a box that intersects halfway, then do Boolean intersection. Then we have to copy the door, then Boolean intersection with this one, then paste and Boolean difference the one before. So a pair of doors that are here, and we can scale in one dimension between the center and the outside, and we'll do 1.5. We'll do 0.75. Then this frame maybe gets a little bit larger, so we'll do 1.2. Let's go here to our rendered mode to see what that looks like. And that's how I would use and create an opening to the inside of a curved wall like this. Of course, there are other ways that we can do it, but this is one solution that you can find. But now here, when typing in show, we see that there are many different ways of doing this. And yeah, so I went through this last exercise fairly quickly. These are a little bit, these cases are not as prevalent as the other ones that I showed earlier, because typically when you're building walls, like they're mostly straight because they're more functional that way. These are more of like decorative or other type of walls that are not necessarily as functional in terms of being able to place a door or being able to place a window, or even being able to put furniture next to and things like that. So hopefully that made sense. I went over a few other things here. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope to see you next time.